right? It's not rocket science. It's about having those conversations with people and making that one step forward every day because you're not going to know what you're doing most of the time. And I think that's honestly a farce that people think that they know what they're doing all the time. And they think that other people know what they're doing. And that's just not the case. Take the next step, right? Pick up the phone. Okay, I got a seller. What can I do with it? Call somebody that you know. Right? You can just walk through it very simply and just don't make a mountain out of a molehill.
Welcome to the LandLife Podcast with your host, PJ Riley.
Hey guys, welcome to the LandLife Podcast. My name is PJ Riley. Like I always say, if you're getting value from this podcast, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Guys, another thing too, I'm going to mention this at the beginning of the podcast today. At the end of the podcast, our guest is going to tell you how to get hold of them. So Jake is going to tell you how you can contact him, work with him, do business with him, something like that. So make sure you stay till the end, get that information. And if you're interested, guys, if you're ready to move forward, contact Jake. He's an expert. We only bring on experts in each field. So, make sure you contact him, pick his brain a little bit and ask him if you guys can maybe work together or something like that. So guys, today our guest is Jake Koferl. Jake, you're in Denver, but whereabouts in the country are you from?
Yeah, so I'm from North Carolina, but Denver resident for a year now.
Right on. Welcome to Denver, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We talked about this a second ago. College lacrosse player?
Yep. Okay. Used to be.
Okay, what school are we talking about here? Where'd you play college lacrosse?
Yeah, so I actually, kind of a unique story. I played Division III college lacrosse at a school called Hampton-Sydney College, which is actually one of only 2, 3, depending on who you ask, all male institutions left in the entire country.
Wow.
There's Wabash is the other one available. So we played in the ODAX. We play schools like, Roanoke, Washington Lee, Lynchburg, and those like small liberal arts schools throughout the Southeast.
Yeah. So guys, if you're not familiar with like collegiate lacrosse, to be a starter in a college lacrosse team, Division III, Division II, Division I, you got to be really good. So Jake was obviously, I played high school lacrosse. And I did not start at a college. I did not start in college. So Jake was definitely a stud in college. And I'm sure that, does that kind of relate or does that, I guess, benefit your business career at all?
Yeah, I mean, not directly, but, all the soft skills that I think you get throughout, participating in a collegiate sport, right? You have incredible amounts of, you're probably in the gym or in practice for at least, 4 to 6 hours a day sometimes, right? You got lifts in the mornings, you have pre-practice, whether it's film or you're in the training room for an hour, film for an hour, practice for 2 to 3. And then you have your, full course load. So I think that sort of demanding schedule, I think any athlete would probably attest to this, like having that demanding schedule definitely prepares you for either owning a business, working in a competitive field, or whatever it may be. And then, there's a laundry list of other soft skills, teamwork, camaraderie, being able to take, directions. You have a coach, right? Being coachable. Indirectly, I'm not saying that I use my lacrosse skills during a negotiation or something like that, but the things I picked up along the way
in meetings.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess I could say even better. So, my partner played, we played college lacrosse together. So yeah, directly.
There you go. All right, Jake. So we know college, from college to the point we're at now. Give us kind of a Cliff Notes version of like, what got you here and kind of little details in there.
Yeah, sure. I'll give the quick overview. So right out of college, actually didn't really know what I wanted to do. I studied mathematical economics with a math minor in my undergrad. Then I took the summer after school. I did a lot of traveling with some buddies. We did a road trip. We were gone for 40 plus days and, just, experiencing that time, not really having any responsibilities. Funny story, while I was on that road trip, I ended up getting my job that I took. I stopped in Columbia, South Carolina, and a buddy of mine who's in my fraternity was like, hey, I'm interning at this place. You're in town. You want to come interview? And so my fiance had lived in Columbia and I took that job. So I worked, that was kind of everything up to, but not lobbying, in Columbia, South Carolina. So we did a lot of PR, and, corporate relations there. And then I started reading too much for my own good, with my free time. Everybody starts, that's where it seems like everybody starts, right? Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's like the holy grail right there. You read that once and you're like, okay, I can't stop now. So once I started that, I kind of jumped in full feet. I moved back to Charlotte. I'm from Charlotte. Moved back to Charlotte and kind of jumped into real estate any way I could. And like any, young and dumb person trying to get into real estate, I went to Craigslist and I said, okay, what's going on here? And I actually found my first partner on Craigslist who, incredibly successful real estate entrepreneur, started multiple companies and a developer. So we linked up and kind of just, we synced really well. And he had this idea to start an Airbnb management company. And so I just jumped in both feet. We jokingly called me this, his firefighter, right? I was just doing any and all things, putting out fires all day, getting new clients, getting them onboarded. So we grew that company. We were managing about 50 properties. And we sold that in 2019. And then right after that, with a couple of investors, I started a company called Cozy B&B, where we were working with apartment developers and owners, and building short-term rentals within their communities. So we were actually in 5 different buildings in Charlotte, had a small portfolio. And then unfortunately, COVID, came through, and we were very urban core, similar to the hotel sector, within 2-3 miles of downtown Charlotte. And we were hit really, really hard and we weren't able to make it through. Being a new company without, huge cash flow, you can't really make it through 3 months there. So that was an interesting experience to kind of work through that. And, how do you build something really quickly and then wind it down just as fast? That was I take more from that to the positive than I do the negative. You learned a lot along the way. And then following that, dove right back in. I'd been learning a lot and working with and in the multifamily space, building these communities, working with, those owners and developers and how we can build these communities or these short-term rentals within those communities. So that was a natural fit to kind of lean into, especially with my partner who had, very institutional private equity experience. And so we started jumping in, looking for our own deals, which we were kind of chasing the tail. Everyone that's in multifamily now knows the crazy run up that we've had over the last, 24 months post-COVID, during and post. So along the way, we started leaning into my partner's underwriting skills and institutional background there. And we built a book of business with clients doing their underwriting. And then that naturally led to us, putting deals in front of them. And then we just kept leaning into that. And now we are where we are today, Ember Capital Partners. And we are a, for-hire acquisition department, kind of full suite for real estate development companies.
That's awesome, man. So I hear a lot of people say, I want to get into multifamily investing. I want to be in a multi, but they want to start there, right? It looks like you started, you built to this point. You didn't just show up one day and say, no, I'm going to build a multifamily, complexes. I'm going to work with these big ballers, these big players in the game. You definitely worked your way up there. Whereabouts are you guys working to in the country? What states, areas are you working in?
Yeah, we have a pretty big reach right now. So we are heavy in, the 4 major markets of Texas. That's where a lot of ours started. Our backyard is here in Denver in the Front Range. We're looking in a lot throughout the Southeast. A lot of states there. The Florida Panhandle is on the list as well. And we actually recently brought on a client who has a lot of Western states. So we're looking at Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, Arizona, Nevada. So yeah, we got a pretty big reach, probably too much right now as we're growing and leaning into it and saying yes to a lot of things. But, we've done a good job building some deal flow in these markets and kind of getting tapped in. So yeah, we're covering a lot.
So how are you able to do that though? So, I know I do a lot of out-of-state real estate as well.
Yeah.
It takes a long time to develop those relationships to where you can go into another state and feel comfortable working there. Just understanding the rules, meeting the people. People are different in different states and different parts of the country.
Right.
How are you able to, do you have people on the ground? Are you personally going out there and kind of laying the groundwork for these projects? How does that work for you guys?
Yeah. So for us, starts with a couple of different steps. So if we're going into a new market, we'll spend a lot of time, and we get a lot of information from studying the maps, right? So we'll take we recently did this in Tucson, for example, just for example's sake. We'll look at Tucson and say, okay, here's all the multifamily. We'll try and map out all the multifamily that's already built. Okay. And then we're also working with a lot of self-storage clients, right? It's okay, where's all the self-storage? All right. And then you start layering in, where's the commercial? All right. Let's start seeing where growth is happening, and let's get a lay of the land. Right. So that's what we do first. We'll start on the maps just to get a lay of the land, figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
And then we'll jump into, since we're doing a lot of development, we'll jump into the development code. All right. So what is each zoning classification? What does that mean generally? Right. We need to get up to speed really quickly. Right. So what does that mean? What does that look like? Where can we, we have clients looking for this sort of product. Where can we do that? Right. What does the rezone process look like? So we'll go through those steps. And then kind of after that is, all right, who are the key players in these markets? Right. Especially on the brokerage and the city side. Right. So who are the key players? Who's moving and shaking? And let's start a conversation there. Right. So that's kind of how we enter a market, is in that sort of capacity, is get a lay of the land, understand the zoning, who are the key people, and then we start diving in. And once we kind of get a base of that knowledge, it's like, okay, now where do we want to target sites? What owners do we want to start calling on? Who do we want to directly target? So that's kind of like, I don't want to call it a 4-step process, but those are the main things that we run through to get up to speed really quickly in a market.
Okay. So that's super interesting. I mean, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's not as difficult as someone might think, as far as the first few steps. You go to an area, you look at a map, you go to Google Maps, look down. Hey, there's just open space over here where, we could put a self-storage facility. Now you said you then at a certain point, you contact key players.
Yeah.
What does that look like? I mean, how are you finding these guys? Are you going to, Googling biggest developer in Phoenix? And then how are you able to arrange a meeting with somebody like that? I mean, a lot of these people, they're really busy. They don't have a lot of time. If I'm day one guy, I've already looked at the map. Right. I got the areas. I know what I want to do and where I want to do it, but I don't know if I have the connections or the ability to connect with this big player. How do you do it?
So this is going to sound silly, and I don't know if this will resonate, but it's just being dumb enough to call,
I love it.
Or just to email them, right? Like everyone always says you're just one yes away. I think that's a little cliche, but at the end of the day, how I always think about it is, everyone puts their pants on the same way, right? You got to step one foot in the other. And at the end of the day, even if they're a CEO, he or she, someone's calling them mom, someone's calling them dad, right? These are just regular people at the end of the day, right? And you want to build a business relationship with them. So you be transparent, you communicate effectively, and so you're going to get some no's. You're going to get some people that don't like taking your calls, and you just move on, I know that sounds like an overly simplistic way, but, we take a broad approach, like, okay, who are the power brokers in these areas, right? Who's working at city and planning? Like, a lot of times people are open, especially with COVID and Zoom becoming very easy, especially with the cities. They're more apt to get on a phone call like this and just walk through really quickly. Like, okay, what's the city looking for? Where can I'm trying to do this. Where can I do it? Right. So anyway, going back to your question, is just being okay with just reaching out and having no regard, but just no shame in that. Right. Like, I'm trying to build my business. You're trying to build your business. Like, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, all right,
That's awesome, man. I love hearing that. And it's a genuine, you're genuinely trying to help the other person as well
Yeah,
as help your own business, right? You go in there, you're not trying to, it's not a salesy deal. You don't have to go in there with this fear that he's going to be on to me. He's going to
right.
know I'm not legit or that I'm trying to like scam him out of something. No, you're really
Yep,
trying to do business, normal business. You're going to talk to
yep,
this guy like a normal human being, and hopefully he reciprocates and you guys can get a deal going. Um,
exactly,
so let's say
exactly.
I want to work with you. Let's say I'm a guy, I'm one of those guys, and I'm like, okay, we want to work together. The communication, the conversation went great.
Yeah,
What's step one? How's this work?
yeah. So it depends on what bucket in the transaction this other person fits, right? If it's a broker, we want to see their deals, just like kind of any other investor would want to see their deals. If they're showing deals to other developers, we want to be the first people that they're showing deals to as well. And hopefully in a better capacity, because if they come to us, they know that there's multiple developers standing behind us, right? We have multiple different asset classes that we work with, different, multiple different developers that we're also touching, right? So they can bring something to us and be like, okay, who do you have, right? And we've also structured it where, in the brokerage world, they're fighting for their commissions, right? And so we actually, we're not brokers. We don't ask for any co-broke fees. We don't ask them to pay us anything. So we align interests that way. Another example is like a city planner. Okay, I used that example before. They want to see good developments done in their city, so we can be that filter for the developers and be like, hey, they're not friendly to your product. They don't want to see it, and it's going to be an uphill battle, or they love it, they can't wait to find a deal with you, right? And so just being able to have those information, so that's what it is. If you're working in the development space and you're touching it in some way, engineers, architects, brokers, city planning, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to, close that gap between, all the third parties that come along with it and the development community.
What about land? So I mean, we are LandLife, obviously.
Right. Yeah.
So there will be dirt people watching this, people that like to buy and sell dirt.
Yeah.
Are you working with those guys too? Are you working with
Oh,
the
yeah.
guys that own the properties there and they're willing to sell those properties?
Yep. So that's kind of part of our, like you mentioned, how do we get into a market? Once we've done all those steps, we start, calling directly to owners and parcels that we think are, that fit our criteria.
Yeah.
And we love working directly with owners. I think we're able to craft our message a little bit better. They can get a good say in what we're doing. You can be a little more creative when you're working directly with the seller as well, because they're the decision maker, right? And a lot of stuff that's brought to market has to fit a box. It's of some sort, whatever that box may be. And I think your listeners will know what that means, right? Yeah. You can think outside that box when you're working directly with a seller. So yeah, absolutely. If you own dirt, selling dirt, whatever it may be, those are the people we like to work with. And, we're not asking anything of them, but to show us their opportunities. We're not asking them to sign a listing agreement. We're not asking them to, share their fees with us, nothing like that. Yeah. And that's how we've strategically set it up to where, we can be an asset to, everybody along the process.
Yeah. And I think when you're working with one seller, the mom and pop seller of the land, it's much easier to work with. It's
right.
One person versus a team of people. You call in, you're talking to the actual owner of the property versus, maybe a secretary or an employee of that group.
Yeah.
And so you're getting directly to them, you're getting answers, yes or no. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with your business though, what does your organization look like? So are we using virtual assistants? Do we have, how big are we talking? How big is Ember?
Yeah, so we have, it's myself, my partner, and then we have an associate. We do have a VA who helps with a lot of admin, data entry, those sorts of pieces. And we are within the next 30 days adding that second, fourth member, second employee. And both of our employees sit on like the deal side, drumming up opportunities, and whether it's on or off market, that's where they sit. So it's 4 of us plus a virtual assistant, or it'd be 4 in 30 days plus a virtual assistant.
That's great. So you guys are staying pretty lean too, as far as, the size of your organization. So if people want to work with you, they're working with Jake.
Yeah.
We're going in, we're talking to Jake. We're not talking to 40 people to get to Jake, maybe somewhere down the road. You're calling Jake, hey, here's my idea, here's our deal.
Yep.
Let's work out the deal together. That's really really pretty interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just, it started with just my partner and I 2 years ago, and we're starting to gain some great traction, which we're very excited about. And so, yeah, we're growing, which is very exciting.
That's awesome. So let's say I'm a new guy in your industry. I'm brand new in your industry, and I want to be like Jake.
Yeah, right.
I'm a young guy. I just played my last game of college lacrosse, and I'm like, dude, that's me. I'm Jake.
Yeah.
I'm the next Jake. How do I get to the point? What are the first steps I take?
Well, once you're done crying like a little baby because you just played your last game, as I did, the best thing the best advice that I always try and what I try to emulate is, get as close as you can to the sun. And what I mean by that is, find somebody doing cool stuff that you want to do on the land side, right? And we've even built our business around that. And I'll kind of mention that. So like when I first got in the industry, my partner of mine, crazy successful, has built a huge brokerage, has a development company now, owns a restaurant. And so I just said, sure, whatever you want me to do. I was underpaid, overworked, doing anything and everything I wanted. But he was where I wanted to be, right? So I just said, sure, I'll be there. So that's my biggest advice is, get as close as you can to the sun. Find whoever or whatever is doing what you want to do and find a way to do it, right? And so to that end, that's what Ember Capital does. My partner and I, we want to be developers, and being a developer, you can't just jump into being a developer. It takes a lot of money, a lot of time, and you normally have cash outlays for 3 to 5 years. So what did we do? We built a company that services development companies. So we're as close as we can to the sun. We want to see what our clients are doing, how they operate, then they're going to be clients and partners for life. So that's kind of like how I would say. And obviously there's all the rest that comes with it. Just reading, listening to podcasts like this, diving into any sort of knowledge you can get. But I definitely, I don't think you can beat being, getting your hands dirty a little bit. And even if that means, like you say, Jake, I got a 95, I can't do that. There's always somebody working overtime or something you can do on weekends just to see what's going on, because you remember when you work with your hands a little bit more, or you're in the mud with somebody, you remember that, and it sticks really well.
Yeah. That's kind of the point of this podcast too, is to show people what is possible out there.
Right.
You're a guy that's working construction right now. Maybe you heard of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Go grab the book, pick it up. And that's basically 101 for everything.
Right.
But you also understand what it's like to work that 9 to 5 and to be constantly physically working. That's not what you don't want to do. You want to be like Jake. You want to be, moving up in the world. So like you said, be as close as you can to the sun.
Yeah.
I like that.
If anybody's working construction and they want, I think construction backgrounds are great for development, because a lot of times real estate guys don't know construction, right? So it's great. If you're in construction and you want to come talk about development, give me a call.
There you go, dude. There we go. Look at this. We're already getting people. Plus, if you have land, if you're a vacant land person,
yeah,
you buy and sell vacant land, contact Jake as well. That being said, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so easiest way is, I probably won't get my cell phone out on the call, but easiest way is my email. It's just gonna be my first name, Jake, at Ember, EMBERCP.com. That's gonna be the best way. And also feel free to, see our website, embercp.com.
What about social media? How big are you guys in social media?
I know in 2022, I'll get razz for this, but 0 at the moment, to be completely honest. But you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm active on LinkedIn as well. But that is about it at the moment.
Okay. Let's get you guys on social media, man.
I know. Tell me about it.
We got to get you guys out there, man. We need people to see you. Well, that's awesome. Yeah. So guys, if you are interested in working with Jake, hit him up on LinkedIn, email. I think what you do is like the next level for just about everybody who watches this podcast. And we have a lot of people that probably are in construction, probably a lot of people that buy and sell land, real estate, but they want to move to that next level too. You know, there's like, you're playing in this sandbox in business, and you think, man, it's going really good. I'm really doing well. But if you want to get to that level, to a higher level, you got to play in a completely different sandbox. So contacting someone like Jake is going to it's going to at least open up the doors, and you're going to understand what it's like to be up there and to work in amongst those types of people. So I think that's going to be super beneficial. If you guys get a chance, contact Jake.
Yeah, it's great. We're we're working. Another reason you talk about a different, finding a different sandbox, and that's what we did, right? As 28-year-olds, my partner and I probably weren't going to be able to work on $100 million, 450 unit multifamily deal, but through how we've built our company, we are, so we're able to work on, those larger deals, and get that exposure, at a time when if we were trying to do it ourselves, we probably wouldn't.
Yeah. That's huge. That's awesome. Jake, anything else you want to say?
No, just, to anybody that's, hesitant or, jump right in. You don't need to, like I've kind of laid out here, and I think you probably as a theme on your podcast is, it's not rocket science, right? It's really not, especially in the land game, right? It's not rocket science. It's about having those conversations with people, and making that one step forward every day, because you're not going to know what you're doing most of the time. And I think that's honestly a farce that people think that they know what they're doing all the time. And they think that other people know what they're doing. And that's just not the case. So, take the next step, right? Pick up the phone. Okay, I got a seller. What can I do with it? Call somebody that right? You can just walk through it very simply, and just don't make a mountain out of a molehill.
That's awesome. Great advice, man.
Yeah.
Great advice, guys. Jump, get out there. No reason to sit still anymore.
Nope.
You only live once. So Jake, here's a big question. You ready for it?
Yeah, I'm ready.
This is the big question. And this pertains to you. I mean, this is part of your business. We are LandLife. I buy and sell vacant land all over the country. If you, Jake, could buy land anywhere in the whole world, where would it be and why?
So we are under contract on 30 acres in Austin, Texas. I think that's some great dirt to own. But if I was to answer that, there's a lot of these luxury mountain, resorts along I-70 here, along the Front Range where the ski mountains are. I think that's irreplaceable dirt. You're automatically supply constrained because there's just not a lot of it, or you're in a valley with mountains that you can't build on. So I think, if I own 30 acres in, Beaver Creek or Vail, I think that would probably be incredible.
Absolutely. Let's get working on that, man.
Let's do it.
I want to be on that deal too. So
yeah.
I definitely want to work with that.
I just saw one in Vail Valley for, 40 million.
That's a good deal. Go halves.
That's it.
You do the money part. I'll drive up there and look at it. Let's
go. That's it. That's a team right there.
Right on. Jake, thank you so much for being on, dude. I really appreciate it. And guys, hope you got a lot of value from this. Contact Jake. Like, subscribe, leave comments. Definitely have comments. Those help a ton. Otherwise, guys, I'll see you next time on LandLife.